drummers should go first, I think. Masi, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do the opening prayer. I do believe whenever you do a prayer, it is important to pray for our leaders. When we pray for our leaders, such as the Premier, the ministers, and the members of the Legislative Assembly, and also the Speaker of the Ledge. The reason why I say that is I remember watching a televised TV on the national news when Pope Francis was about to bless the people in the Vatican while he was up there. People were waiting for him to be blessed. And then he said, in his language and also in English 3 times, he said, before he blessed the people, he said, please pray for me, even as a leader. That is why it's important whenever we pray for the leaders, to make sure that we pray for them to make a good decision for the people that you represent. That's all I have. I'm going to say for now, and then I'm going to say a few little words in my language, and I will do the Our Father in Kinchon language. Sevtki masi. Did they get chicken that don't ya will do question? And Nashia Haya Kiasi, Sahu it goes masi on the said that the masi in the home. The hind so high seen the honey. Nahia Haya Tigan. Yet have a yet done isn't you? Was it out here haunted in the Gotaya Honada Colan is it the God that in the Ninkai one day? Yak and the take or you get the next in the take one day. What are the thought that it's and going did our good son out taken against out taken only what is it was on the dismal on a tear haunted in the yet have a yet done is the true was it out here haunted in the mercy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome back. It's great to be here. I'd like to thank the Clecho Drummers for opening our session today. Also, like to thank Elder Jonas Lafferty for his opening.
YouTube na kaya to tuglupak ang barut minister statement tuglupak okak tibo tumani uglupak like to honor Joe Agluktuk legislate me time talk at Nerlak Park talk time talk money Legislative Assembly 1979 mi habagurok 1983 o kabagurok at napagok at Nerlak Park pingahuni ukiuni habagtuak at napag habagtibot aluktu habagtuak mani Inuvialuktun o kauti ugat mani kanok o kautingit at napag mani habagput mani Legislative Assembly o kauti uki Mr. Lugo nipaglu.
Colleagues, I've said
O kauti nerik ka una nakuronig o kauti luhi nakuromik nakuromo kaktok lutin at napag o kaktok state military nalurutin at napag kanurli o kaktok din o kauti ne o kaktok din tapag nakuromi o kaktok lutin at napagok inuit ubali o kaktok luta Overgut habag tibut mani Legislative Assembly o kaktot mani kanakluit ikayakluit ubani Inuit nakuromik o kautilutin mani Legislative Assembly uglupak o kaknek toagut ubani Inuit habag tibut mani Legislative Chambers mi at napag tayo mahirak tugut habag tibut mani Legislative Assembly at napag o kaktok tugut ikayok niraik put Inuit mani habag tibut budget mika oklagut habag tibut oklapag kanilun ikayok luit Oglabat apekro na pin kanokli isimabiyong mani ikayok tibut at napag habag tibut ikayok lutura o got habag okaktot Legislative Assembly at napagok kanok isimabiyong okautibik kinya habag nek tiw Oglupak Inuit habag tibut kinya naipektoat ubani habag tibut kanokli ikayok nerik pin at napag Northwest Territories mi habag tibut ikayok luto nek tuha habag tibut habag nirak luta ubani Legislative Assembly at napag koyanay niya Okaktibut February mi okaktibut inyunyarwing mi at naman February mi ikayaw na okaktibut mani okaktomik at napag kunay nainik parak in okakto himbi utaktok luta at napag hukay hurak
I'm also pleased.
Kaya politik kau kot mau ngau tak tot momikchirot ukot tawak kaya gilgit kai kayura korot mani kaibluting ilihakawing mingin kaibluting mau nga ikayoyak tawak tot mat kunung okaktuanon mumi tait na ikayura halukit alakaini ko wani hibunniarvik pangmi. Tabatap ko at kuyak parlit kit kamaunga kairamada tabrunga tam na kulela ka nga kuyak parlit kit kawat nutakatin na inyalat kaibluting maunga ikayura ko mata. Tabrap tao ka na December 2025 may tait na tamat kop tok Abby Taylor tabrani o kakatigimi ka kanok isumatinga ilitsura niya halu kanokolo inyuni ako tinga na angalatsi kami tamat ko nga hulakaw tikiranginyik. Tabrap taok tam na tabrap kuyak parlit kiya na havaminyik na kayong itchok. Tait nalwa tabrap tap ko at hibunyak po na ilihimablugo. Tait na tamat ko at hibunni ako tirakangit kanok inyuni ako tikrangit. Tagpapanip taok Toronto mi na akapiraw galwalgin nyami. Tabrak kayo tiga tamani kaya maman mani. Mani wani hibunni ako ikpapting nun kaya bilyon nalaktuak nagalun ni kanok ang alarutik putilit sa kanya halo. Tabraw na kulikraka. Tabraw tamnap tao ko na kauhliyo rock wani mani Northwest Territories ni Commissioner Inuvialuktun. Tabraw ko at kaya tiga kanok tamat ko at ang alalin mauunin nagilan. Tamat ko kanok tamat ko di na ang alalin tingit mani hibun niya ko pang may litso kailangan itangit. Wani February minganin March mo nagilan March 6 mo nagilan tabratap ko at nalagto niya kay kanok ikaw tingit. Kaya nakapag minyahitat daw kaya litit na premier. Kakti. Ublupak. Tabraw ko at kaya litit ka mani Northwest Territories ni Dot. Tabraw tayo na ilitsarap kay nyak kadok. Wani mani Northwest Territories na kanok ang alarutik put. Tayo na diton ukiyo ni tayo na tabra kanok ang alaruting inyik ilitsarap kay nyak tuwit at taramik ukiyo tuwak man. Tabra luptok tam na kanok ang alarutik put. Nagalon ni kanok ikaw tibut haba kaptay na ilitso kanyak ilitso kubulugit inuit mani itot mani Northwest Territories ni itot ilitso kap kanayak luwit kanok ang alarutik tingli ko mani hibun niya wik pang mi. Tabralutay na nagalawra ko tingtay na kuliyak raming niya kuliyak to aktut. Ilitsarap kay rakti din yung nun tay na mani inyuni aktuan.
Today, the eyes of the world
Unap tao kay na tabral tam na pinyaka na pektok kanok ang agalarudik put mani uwap tikun kihen gilit iliman ang itik put hiya khilugo ilimap kani akaribut mani inyuni aktuat nunapting ni Northwest Territories ni. Tabraptak tamani kawamani tot na tamat ko takin na munakarat Munakhraarat taitna munakhriroat inyungnik annialuktuanik munakhillautaqanaqqiliit kaitu umani ukiumi. Tabra atauchikun havaktuaqartigutin na uaptikkun havalaitsugut tamatkuninga havakaptaanniartualuktuanik. Tabra lutaitna kihullaqa nanilaqa inyuniartuat munaqaniaqaqiivut illuatun. Tabra taartamatkuatin na kiinyauranikit na hapeqraqtuat inugiaktuat havaamiittigun nalo qanoherautimittigun tamatkunuuna kiinyauratigun naatoquniartuat nailaatni hapeqraleqartut inyuniarutingit. Tainna tabra havaktinniaqaluaqariivut maani nunaptingni ittuat. Tabra taaqukuat kavamani ittua uvani hivunniortitit na ilitseripkai himalugutuvaptikkun. Tabra taitna ikajortuarlui taitna tamaani inyuniartuat maani Northwest Territoriesni. Tabra tauq havaaqtaamna huli naanngikkikkut hivunniarutikput una ittoquli tabrani. Taitnaluptauq ataramik taapkuat ilihimaniaqariivut tabra una pangmamunagilaani nauq isummatigillait. Uqaqti tabra taamna na taitna inuittit na ingmiktigun inyuniartuat pillautaaqqavlugit inyuniarutingitit na ikajorniaqariivut. Tamatkualui naapqutiqpait Mackenzie Valley Highway pilaqagiit apqutiqpait tamatkuat tabra munaqaniaqariivut illuatun na inuit illuatun inyuniarutikkrangit. Tabra tauq tamatkuatit na akingitit na anmuktaarlugit taitnarlugit taitnitnagilaan akiliqtaqungillugit. Tabra taapkuatit na isummatigikaptigit uvani kavamauruat Canadami. Tabra Petchikomi ittuat tabra taapkuatit na isumagigikkivut. Taitnaluptauq taitna tabra tamatkuatit na avanmuni na aularaqartuat tamannalu aularaviat tabra taamna na tutriqqarniaqqimaligikkipputtit na inyuniallautaquvlugit tauq tabrani Petchikomi ittuat. $10 million tabrunga taapkununga na aituutigiliittugut taapkuat federal government-ning piviuta tamatkuat tabra qutsiktuani kavamauruat federal government-ik pilaqagiit tabra taapkunanga taitnatunagalaan kiinyauranik piligitsugut ikayuutikraptingnik. Tabra tauq taitnatunagalaani na ilitserivluta qanutunagalaani na havaatigun naagaluunniin qanoqavangniaqutitigun inuit havaakhranginnik isumaalugguta tabra tamatkuatit na Petchikomi ilaqaliginniaqait. Tabra taitna tama ataramik taitna atoqtangit naagaluunniini na allakun atoqtangit tabra taitna ingmiktiguttaaq havaaqartuat. Tabra ikajorniaqlugit hoammahit quvlugit havaangittigun tamatkualui nuit na ikayuutiqranginnik inyungnun tamatkuninga tabra ikayuliittivut. Tabra tauq tamatkuatit na aimavikranginnik isumaalugguta na ingmiktigun aimavikraminginnik isumaaluutigivlugit. Tabra tamatkuatit na aimavingnik tauq nappailaqaligitsut humilleqa Inuvialuktun tagilaani ilihimagivut tai na he kangitsut ai mavekangitsut na paingitsut ai mavikanginnik matkot tukkuilat tamaani pisikatartuat ataramik pisikatartuartuat tukkuilluting tawa taappuat isummaalugaviluit tai nappailaqaligitsugut savalu igiluniktaaq nappaingialigitsugut tamatkoit isumagaviluit tai na Fort Good Hope min tai na isumagaviluit tamatkoit igiluilating miktigut tawa tallimanik tai na tunagalaan nappailaqaligitsugut 20th mi aisagutilaqataqapta uvanihivunniaqvikpangmi tavalu tai na tawa tamatkoit isummatigivluit na hivunikilaqput tai na taamna illuatun havauttarihuklugit naagaluunniini na inuuniarutingit inuuniallautaquvlugit tavalu tauq tai na iliitsarikapta pillaniqapta tawa tamatkuat pinialigittivut tavaluptaaq tamatkuat ilaanni hapiqilaqaluaqartugut na pillautangi tuarilaqaluartugut ilaanni agalaan uaptikkun tai na pilaitsugut tihitsiapta Inuvialuktun tamatkuat ilaanni kuallaviñaqatik tamatkualumunaqiagglaaqavlugit 2022-23 mi tawa ilitsarikkarput tawani ikuallakpaulaqman tavalu tamatkuat qanoqikayuuti at avanmun ikayuutiniaqqapta tawani ilitsariluagut ilitsarikkarput taamna avanmun ikayuutineq tavaluptaaq tamatkuat tai na tunagalaan qanoq tai na tunagalaani na ikayuarpaulakkavut na inauraniittuat naagaluuni naniliqaiñuuniartuat ilitsarikkavut tawa taaptumangaani tavalutaaq taamna hivuniklarputi na hannaayaqqutai qanoq atorniartilaafangat hivunerput tavani ililaqaligittivut tamatkuati na kavamattauqikkuat ikayuutivlutaat avanmun tavalu tamatkuattauq ikayorniakkavut ikayuutivlutai na tamatkuat tawa Fort Providence Fort Smith mi tawa tamatkuaptauq inguuniartuatait na tamatkuningahavaktuat ikayornialigittivut tavaluptaaq tai na tunagalaan havaaqpangniki na havangniartuat ikayornialigittivut tai naluptaaq tawa tai na tunanikuagut kavamauluagut tai na tamatkuat hivuneqaligittivut pangmapak so tai na tunagalaani na kihullaqaiñuuniartuat ikayornialigittivut tavalu tai na tunagalaan pillautaarniarlugit pillautaquvlugit iñungnun na piarluktailuvlugit inuit iñuuniartuat nutaqaangit na ataullugit tai na tawa ikayornialitsarivut ikayorlugit tai na tavaluptaaq tamatkuati na allagingitsut inaurani naagaluuni ineqpanguni allagingaarluit tai na tunagalaan ikayorniaqarivut Inuving me herever Petrakorialanai ilaqaiñiktaapkuat tavaluptaaq tamatkuati na havaktit ikayorniaqarivut tai nalu tawa tai na tunagalaani na ilihimaruat tamatkuninga havaanik tawa tamatkuat ikayorniaqarivut qanoq hivunmun aulatqavlugit uqaqti tavalu tai na pillautaqalugit inuit pinialigittivut Tabalutai na tunagalan ay naawan mo kawamani na ika-YouTube luta hawakapta tabatam na pigo manang ikikput kanok ika-YouTube tay na tamatkwad inawalat isuatun ikayon aktilakang ijistorek kaput tabalutak tay na ilitsura niya kapta tay na tamatkwad ilitsura li kibut kanok awlan niya awla rutikrangit nagalunin hibun mo tikrangit tabalu tay na tinagalanin na inuit tamane hawak to di kayo na haluit tamat kuninga hawak hunigila ka tamane inawalani hawak to tamat ko di kayo na likibut o kakti tabakana tawa ni na kuya huwak tok tay na tinagalan kanak matkwad na kanak ang miktiwani na isagon nga rote na isagon nga bluting tay na ataramig tay makay dito tay na kating ikayo ko na ay tamatkod sa brown na huwa marok o kakalang nilitit ka mani Northern Territories ni mani birak tichak parak hili tutoy towards me 600 tutyak mani mga awla kanak tutabo nga na katimayak to kanak tut birak to anun anak tak to anun sabalutay na tamat ko din na alanik to kanok ingmiktigun pili anak daw raw timing nik ilitsarap kayak to kanak tutabo nga kuming white horseman tabalup tay na tabra taw tam na ilitsarap pe ako blue tabra tap ko tay na anak daw to nun awlakit kakili kay tamat ko nga ingmiktiwan anak daw raw timing nik isagot ilihimat ko blue tap ko ti simabluti kaya nakpak.
Thank you, Mr. Premier.
Kaya na ini, Minister Statements. Thursday, migo budget migo kakagihaktak nerat. Kaya na ini, Minister Finance. Member Statements. Member Dunak Put o kaknektok. Kaya na ini, Dunak Put o kaya na ini. Inuvialuktun Regional Corporate Urban Alliance Kuninay Parpat at napaka kawehag parak tugut aguglupaka o kawehag naktut at napaka Inuvialuktun Communication Society uglupaka at napaka Dwayne Smith at napaghawak kulitin mani Regional Corporation mi. Ayun na ini. Member from Ridge Lake at uglupaka hawak himmek doctor at napaka United States migo ka doctor at security money security mi uglupak Prime Minister Carney doctor money kanogli kismabiyo kanogli ikayo nakto Prime Minister doctor uglupak himmek doctor hilyabot at napaka nuna auki naktok hiko auki naktok at napaka uglupak kautik pot kanogli isuma biyong ikayukti hilyabot tapakyak at napaka himmek park takarine Russia, China, United States la at napagoka kanogli sumabiyong inyo nunabot auki naktok President Trump o kaktuak ikpaksatak kanogli ikayong New York negatikar kanok kangkilay tsako ka President Trump o glupag Alberta migok uglupaka kanogli sumabing President Trump at napaka ukaktuak uglupaka ikayong nakutin sovereignty government money at napaka ikayong narikpot kanogli sumabing at napaka kayokti Greenland miu Arctic Nation migoka ikayong nira ikpot at mag Inuit money is nyawing me Uglupako ka at napaka kanogli President Trump Prime Minister ko kakaktok at napakok isumabiyong kanogli ikayok tinegit kat federal government ko kabakti ikayok tinegit kat uglupako at napaka isumabiyong kabamakti o kababiyong ikayok ti at napako kanogli ikayok tinegit Premier ikayaw ni True North strong and free ovani. Member statement sa 2 minute kaknetok. Kaya na Park, Mr. Speaker. Norman Wellsby okra bika umikaminyak takat na pagkawak kanakli Inuit Imperial Oil Norman Wellsby sa tumi ikayokti at napaka ikayaw nirak tikput badi okra badi habak tikput habak dog nirak dot last week Premier Mr. Simpson okaktok standard community foreign affairs ko at napako kanok is sovereignty government badi habak tikput exercise mi go ka mani inyo niya bakbang mi at pagka kanokli inyo niya put Mr. Speaker at napaka Norman Wells okromek tabgak okromek height habak takakto urot inyo niya urot inyo niya akto at Norman Wells mi at napaka kanokli hip kanitun habakte Imperial Oil habagurak umikanyak Dr. Bani ubignak ko at baka ohrora mita inuta habakte kanokli inuta inunya bimi kanokli isumabang inunya Dr. Bani at napaka isumaktik podwak kunyak piha okrorak tabrakak umikimarok habak di kraychak mani akihok parak tok mani kanok di isimak piyong Mr. Speaker akihok parak tok mani okroramik kanik Mackenzie Valley Jaime inyu diaktimi market migok at napag sovereignty government of Premier Mira Okaktok Oglubak. Sa tubi oka habak tiwa sa bari apekroati Arctic Sovereignty Northern Development. Uglubak at nabak ikayaw nirak uglubak Okaktok latin. Kaya naini. Yellowknife North mi okak netok. Makpanika territory ang inok ni Raktoka kanakligo ka bani makpapet aging oktot uglupaka kanakli at habak tiwat ikayo lito humi inyo niya mi pihuktot at napaka at kimik at napagawak at napake kayo akati literacy miyok literacy mani kati oglapaka okaktin with literacy 2003 miyok 16 to 25 to Akula oka agralite luni makbading oglupak hanuli kayonak 70% oka light makbading hanuli kayonak paskuwak dot money hanuli ikayonira put literacy program money oktokanat nutakarakat paka okak nirak kanak isamabing Ukla baka atna baka kanaki taipektunyo ahin otak nang lut ikayo nagi kat ko bagbi grade 9 mi oka taimak titliwa taimak nangit school bagbi ahin school uktot atna bak makbating titingit kat graduation ni Uglupaka Okaudi Nerik Buta Education Council Mani Havak Arti College me Mani Havak Nirak Havang Nek Dot Atnapak Okaudi but Atna Tukubing Milu Atnapaka Ikayong Nirak Dot Ikayong Nengit Buta Addictions me Ugla pako kanakli hanut kanitun wak havak tibut mani nutakabat havak dot kanitun ikayaw niyak dot nubot ikayaw niyak but addiction north me yellow night north addiction tok.
Seeing no nays, you may conclude your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, we have got overwhelming problems, and we've got to find threads we can pull on that can lead to transformational change. I believe literacy is a key thread that we've been ignoring and plan to speak more about it this session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Member statements. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last week I had the privilege of attending the AME Roundup Conference in Vancouver as the representative for the Standing Committee on Economic Development and Environment. The conference gave me the opportunity to observe our cabinet colleagues at work and attend numerous informative meetings and sessions. I wanted to share some of my high-level takeaways from my experience at the conference. The first thing that stood out to me was the incredible amount of work and time our ministers, premier, and staff put into advancing the interests of the NWT. It was a very busy week, packed with meetings from morning to night. The Minister for ITI was my host for the conference, and one meeting that stood out to me in particular was the Western Mining Ministers Summit, where ministers signed an MOU on developing a Western Canadian minerals strategy. I noted that our minister commanded a lot of respect at that table and was impressed at how prominently the North stood out in a discussion with ministers from bigger jurisdictions. It was obvious our southern neighbours saw the importance of featuring the North in this strategy, so that was really encouraging. Something else that stood out to me was the importance of the territory coming together and speaking with one voice at the national level. I had the opportunity to chat with someone who could be a funder for major projects here in the NWT, and they emphasized the need for a cohesive message and all the players pulling together towards a common goal. When competing for funding with many other worthwhile projects, if we aren't all pulling together, we'll lose out to projects that are more cohesive. So I think it was really encouraging to see our government sign an MOU of cooperation with the Clecho and Yellowknife's Dene and see our Indigenous governments working together. Watching Chief Ernest Betsina deliver an opening address for YKDFN at Clecho Night felt like a historic moment. When we set our priorities for this Assembly, we emphasize that we are stronger together. I stand by that message, Mr. Speaker, and really believe it is the key to our success. The territory is facing difficult challenges, but also has some big opportunities we can grasp if we work together for common good. So while I know this sitting is going to involve tough questions and tough conversations, I will continue to approach my work in a collaborative way as you have encouraged us to do, Mr. Speaker, as I really do think that is the key to our success. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Frame Lake. Member statement. Member from Great Slave.
Mr. Speaker, Happy New Year and welcome back. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, a work colleague and neighbor reached out and asked me if I had ever heard of radon. I was able to say yes, I had. My father had told me to get our home tested not long before we had our conversation. my neighbor told me that her family's home basement was testing high and that she was going to investigate mitigation measures. In 2023, I purchased my own battery-powered radon monitor as my home has a crawl space. After a year's worth of testing, I found that although my house is not experiencing extreme readings, it is still high enough to consider mitigation. Mr. Speaker, much of the NWT is in a high radon hazard zone. Radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas produced by the breakdown of uranium in soil. Radon gas is the second highest contributor to lung cancer after smoking. Just before this session, CBC News reported on this silent threat that is present in much of our country. Since 2024, I have been talking to several ministerial colleagues about radon and what the GNWT is doing in this space. In essence, Health has a website outlining health concerns. Housing NWT is working on monitoring and mitigating radon levels in public housing. And every homeowner who receives an EnerGuide home energy evaluation from Arctic Energy Alliance receives a report that includes a health and safety overview highlighting radon as a concern for households. And, well, that's about it. The good news is that testing is not hard. Small portable devices are easily purchased and shared amongst neighbors. It helps to have a longer time frame of testing, but especially getting winter readings when doors and windows are closed, as radon readings are higher as a result of trapped air. While getting readings is relatively easy, there is not a lot of local capacity in the NWT to install passive radon mitigation systems. In essence, these systems are a way to vent the gas from basements or crawl spaces. These systems range in price, but are not cheap one-offs. In speaking with the Minister of MACA before the holiday break, he agreed that radon is a concern in the territory and noted that he has seen high levels of radon in his region. Later today, I will table a jurisdictional scan of what provinces and territories are doing to test and mitigate radon for their residents. I will have questions for the Minister on what supports we can offer our NWT communities in taking on this health hazard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Great Slave. Member statement, member from Ofwi.
Merci, Mr. Speaker.
Goeie Mr. Speaker. Goeie ochtend, British Columbia Legislature, British Columbia, me November, me ook. National Day Jewish Recognition, me. Oh, okay. Oh, Adnapak Okakdokdut, National Day Truth and Recognition, me ook Adnapak Okakdot.
We celebrate that day.
Olabaka Katu Turu Mani Inuit Adnapak me. Northwest Territories, me ook Adnapak Northwest Territories, me hor ikayong nerik but reconciliation me. Kaibit min me ook Olabak Truth and Recognition among school actor. Truth and Recognition me Commissioner ook. Action me money uglabak uglud me oka honor old inuit school actor okakdot money nutakat aingi shot inuit me school act me uglabak kanokli truth kanokli okaktun nerik put residential school me uglabak statement me to BC me oka hati okakdot Inuvialuktun nengik aglubak National Day Recognition okakdot acknowledging but okakdot mani Inuit Uniak me okakdot mani Truth Northwest Territories me Inuit Naipektorat Kanoli Resident School Mani Ikayoktuk Barakput. Mr. Speaker, Adnapak Akayong Niraktadat Canadians okaktot atnabak Inuvialuktun truth recognition me government but atnabak reconciliation it's okaktibuta ikayoktibuta Inuvialuktun atnabak ikayonir but atnabak Inuvialuktun uglabak retreating me government ok ikayonir atnabak at truth me atnabak kanagli reconciliation ikayonir kanagli territorial government atnabak unabak kaknek okayonir premier. Walter Hewitt Baker, congratulations Erwin Elias, IRC Chair Madi, United Park, Dwayne Smith, Habak Dodin, Darren Madi, 10 years. Mr. Speaker, North America, Adna Paka, Arctic Miga, federal $10 million in work, Hub Madi, Yellow Adna Paka, Kanagli, Kayong Gateway, me, Habak Tiwut Madi, Inuit Habak Tiwut, LNG, Habak Tiwut, Akput Tiwut, Adna Bakboda, Ikayonirada, Oglapak Public Works, Kayok Tignut, Nunavut, Nubing me, Adna Baka Infrastructure, Dimirorik Micha Huraka, Ikayok Angirak Telu, Federal Government Hoka, Ikayok Teklu, Mani, Ewing me. Uglupaka government but ikayok technic but Atnapaka federal government Mackenzie Valley Highway Atnapak Havakti Nero Panikram Kaiti Nero Lida Atnapak Akput but sovereignty government. Mr. Speaker, Atnapaka ikayok technic government but Uglupaka ikayok takaktu gutrani. Koyanaini. Mackenzie Delta Miokak Nekdok. Koyanaini, Mr. Speaker. Koyanaini Madi Unit Kobehok Park Doctunga. Oklapaka Okaktunga. Inuvik Northwest Territories me. Habaknet career pass me gok. Yalanai me Atnapaka Mikiramik Inuvialuktun me. Okak Mr. Speaker, Indigenous women okak talk secret chick mingi. Makpa meka ikayok nirak talk Louis hab umak bakbaka Atnapak Coast Guard me. Okak tunga mani agnayak sa sikichig mi oka umak habak toka mani Coast Guard me. In Atnapak trainek nirak toka habak toka Atnapak umak pang me Coast Guard me. Uglapaka Arctic Indigenous Pages me Amande Andre Nitichi Akanayak Dakan Mioka Daka Western Arctic Training me Northwest Territories me Adnapak Nunavut Coast Guard Western Region Kobehok Paraktunga Amanda Habakdok Malong New York 28 Daytona Habakdok Dok Koyanaini Amanda Habakdok. Mr. Speaker, Northwest Territories me. Adnabaka Aknayaka Sikachik me. Kobehok Park to Habak Dr. Canadian Coast Guard me. Unaday uladay me. Koyunani, Mr. Speaker. Uglupaka makpanik titik dogo ta treatimik. Kayunir dogo ta mani treatimi government but crown. At nabak the crown woka okaktot mani department institution me. At nabak kanokli Inuvialuktun at nerving me. Oglupak at nerving me yoka yelna adwa me yelna me. Kanokli himmek nerik put oglupak. Oglupak isimaviung at nervik tabak okaktot health and social services me. Oglupak at nerving me emergency me ok. Akilaro money mika money to go back kanokli doctor liang nek dot oglupak ambulance me oka ikayok tak mikura mika hin nutakaraka okaktoka ayamabang miktuk oglupak emergency service oglupak kanokli medical travel Isha umihuk parak dot atnabak medical travel woka ikayong nengit kok atnabak aknaya ka nutakangalu atnabak government put ikayak ternirak lugo atnakabing mik uglubak medical services mika kanagalu ikayong nengit put treaty rights mik uglubak kanakabing Handak be you isimabiung at nabagok klupaka naipektok nerik penuka nutakaraka ay mabig miktok uglupaka ikayok buta at nerik ikayo light ka tiguta at nerving me uglupaka okauti nerik penuka at medical travel migoka hok ikayok nengit puta government ikayok nirak lugut at napaka okauti lugut government mani ikayok luta at napak government himber lugo medical travel payunaini Kayunaini single member to admit at napaka okauti gipukta at napagata Inuit courts in me at napak. Mr. Speaker, county pin kanokli isimabiung. Oglupak isimak para pin kanokli ikayok narik pan map Canada. Oglupak kanok na Canada miyoka oglupak isimaik put. Oglupak ikayok narik but British Columbia walk mandate me oglupak at conduct me at Berdami Uglupak accountability oka Uglupak accountability at the baka de-classification ok kayo na Inuit nerving me Northwest Territories me oka about me.
Pang mapakilyan ni hibul mo haniran ni ataram matkwat kanya ragay. Tabab tak mani tabab matkwat nahwaktot pilya tao kuptigi na tamat kot ke hen kanya kayibutay na iswatan hawaktin ni akhluwit. 1991 kabamaro to kakikang atam na Tabatam na pingit ka tuloy pang mapak. Ulupak unin nagalonin na kakupayak na hibupting ni unitapting ni tap ko taba ko iligit ka o kakadlakap kit ulupak ko yanakpak. Una okakte tabaw ko tabaw na pilyote 1999 mi na anihimaro kakanayak. Tabaw November 9 ngomong tabaw pa piektuak. Tabaw unatam naglan pigo maneng kikput isumagaya katakiput isumagaya katakiput na pimakika ako ni pilyaw ako ni ataramik. Tabaw tap ko tagol lakay tayo na pekpagak para kang atam na inyo niya katikting. Tabaw tayo na kanito naglan na pilyaw ta kaniro akalagit inuit pilyaw ta tangit. Tabaw tayo na pekpaginibyo apa ni pitka nga tabaw nga hey tayo malako ni tabaw ayokang ni pekpagak para kami kangit.
Time, something that everybody will.
Tabaw ilihablugo mga ilitsok ka ila ni mani haba hebon niya ako pangmon isilahublo ni. Tabaw tayo na pilyaw ta ko ni pilyaw ta ni rakalawit inyo ni aktuak. Inyo ni law ta nga kalo ako ni ila ni agalan pigo malait kay tukot na pilyaw ta ni rakalawit inyo pirakagay. Pilyaw na tabaw tayo na ilokay ni tayo na inyo na pilyaw ta kanyo rakalawit inyo ni aktuak na umiluwit nagalunin pilay chuti kakalawit o kalay chua ko ni tamat ko nga inyo na akatimin yun. Tabaw tayo na ko ting tam na pigo manangit kikput ilihiman na akikput ka na kanyo na aktuak. Ikaw dun inyo tayo malakabit ikaw dun tabo nga ay mabisramon piyaman ko yanakpak. Kaya nako kakte. Tabraw na akanayat inyo ublupak inyo niya inyo bigilit kat ublokalit kat ublupak. Tabraw tayo na tawak tamat ko din na ilihimagabot tayo na kanok inyo na aktunin na waktu iruat pilyaw takuruat tamat ko nalagto anaktut. Tabaw tayo na kanaya tayo na piuraktot tabaw tayo na ingmitiutok anak tabaw kakamute tamaptok ang utit tayo na ingmiutok. Tabaw tayo na tayo na inyo na aktuat tamat ko takanayat. Isuatun tayo na tamat ko nga anak tarak tanon ilaw na gutiraktot tamat ko nga kanuhin gila kamani inyo na akabingming ni anak tarak anak tagalukaw ako ting nagaluan nin mihi katakating tamat kuninga ilihaqtuat. Tabra taitna taramiktaaq taitna tuaqqimatut. Tabra taitna tamat kuat aqnayat tabra tamat kuninga. Taitna tabra taitna humullaqa aulaqtuanun anaktaraqtuanun maliaqtoq. Tabralup taqtamna tabralup taitna tabralup taqtam tabrakuyaqparalittigainna matkoodi kayuraqlivit mat na ilani qiyanaqpak.
And gallery, I get the pleasure of recognizing my constituent assistant, Deborah Richards, who has graced us here present this week, and I'd like to thank her for being here today. She's just keeping track of me, that's all. Recognition of Visitors Gallery, recognition of Visitors Gallery, member from Yellowknife South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to have 2 pages from Yellowknife South with us this week, Celestia O'Brien and Joshua Kostash.
Recognition of Visitors and Gallery, recognition of Visitors Gallery, member from the Nutboot.
I'd like to recognize Julie Thrasher. Julie is a constituent of Yellowknife, but a member of the Mackenzie Delta, and we're both from McClavick. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from the Nutboot. Recognition of Visitors and Gallery, recognition of Visitors and Gallery, member from the Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to recognize Julie Thrasher, who's a friend and a supporter from the people of the Mackenzie Delta region. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Mackenzie Delta. Recognition of Visitor Gallery, recognition of Visitor Gallery, member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize Ms. Julie Thrasher. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied today. I'll say it again. Ms. Julie Thrasher. She lives downtown in Yellowknife, and I know she's certainly the eyes and ears of a lot of things that go on, and I appreciate her support and friendship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognition of Visitors and Gallery, recognition of Visitors and Gallery. If we've missed anyone,
Member from Cam Lake, what kaya naini? At napaka ikayang nering Cam Lake me, resident ikayaw nira ikaya naipaktok wani. Rangers go kaya naini mani ikayak tuktot. Northwest Territories migo ka akit pirak totowani. Kaya naini at napakobay park to kataw to visitors gathered me. Acknowledgements, oral questions. Member from Range Lake. Kaya naini, Mr. Speaker. Northwest Territories mayor $10 million at napaka kaiti neradigot nor at basic nation me. Kayong nergbet construction me 2039 me ok tayo magnektok. Ogla paka premier puta okaktok television me duo ka at napak $10 million or kaiti ner. Ula baka mani government atak luguta mani atak torlu. Mr. Atna baga madak padrok o kaktorguta CKLV TV migoka at contractors mia ikayak takput Bitirnertuat contracting me. Aadna baka okak nertigutuligok kanogli okaktuak ikayaw nirang inyu nerwing mi aadna baka ikayaw ligita akwat haba uktuat security clearance migok. Ikayaw nir habak tikaktuat haba uktuat tabani inyu nerwing mi. Ugla baka utak nertugut budget kangi haktak ligo. Ugla baka naipaktok nergut federal makpanika kaiti uglu. Ugla bak manik booked. Kaya naini, Mr. Speaker. Aadna baka economy ugla baka okaktogut. Ikayaw nirag but ikayaw ni private sectors work, government work, at ikayaw lut ikayaw tu nirag but permitting nuna but ugla but government but ikayaw niratigut at napak nuna but DNDB koyaw li manik but kainyak tok koya na Mr. Speaker. Kaya na Mr. Speaker, aadna baka naipag na money infrastructure, money coordination, migo government, but apekrug, but habak but federal government, but national defense, but ikayok te kaktagut atubak. Uglubak ikayok naik, but uglubak Prime Minister. National Defense migo infrastructure go inyu narwing mi ikayaw narik but military migo inyu narwing mi at na baka okakto nga oglupakok kanokli isimak pada habak takaktot mani habak naktot TND mi oglupak Development Corporation. Inyu tabak dot money inyu business me yoka ikayakti. Oglapak policy government me yoka nunamik we need nunamik bihuktok me inyu me yoka nunamik bihuktok haktut kanakli barriers me money government me go nunamik yalanay me nunamik kaitsinagatigut. Mr. Speaker, eliminating policy me nalarunga policy me koyad me policy me kaktok titiklo makparamik. Environment and climate change me government put ikayaw niya togut uglupaka nunamik kanakli kaitinerik but at nabaka ikayak tinerik but habak tiwut.
With approximately 607 days left in this
670 day ubluni kehingoktok mani okakabikiraptingni wani tapkwat na apakirta laukiyaw na minihitak NWT kanito nagalaan tamat kuninga munakrakakpa igilulanik security guard nik pirakagaytaniktin. Kaya nakokakti. Tapos tamat ko na nalupkay ka kanito nagalani na munakrilo tamani. Kaya nak Yellowknife Center. Kaya nakokakti. Tapos tam na minihita ko apakirulay hulitap tunga. Atiromik apakirtamik ako apakirpalagi taptimik atiromik. Kaya na. una tamat ko na nga natrik chichiniaktoak ataramik. Kaya na ko hakte. Yalo na sentiment. Tabra kwat minihita ko na tap ko ilitsaka niya alo ilitsaka trugalo na kaya. Tabra tap ko 35 tun dahil na ito nagalaan 35 tun ni tabra ni hawak kalawak humitaw tuk naichok kano heraw tingani kaya na tabra tap ko din na ilitsaka niya kanayakat ka. Tabra lo tamat kap takit na. Tabra ilitsaka niya peka na ko tam na anin niya kaya. Inuvik putlek. Kaya ako kakte. O kakte. Tabra range lake minako apakirta lang man naragto kake. $10 million tuno na kinyarat angirok tam na $10 million na kinyarat ato ni aktilakap. Tam na tabra. Tabra tap ko ato ni akpati ko nga. Mat ko nga isumati kapting nit. Kaya na ko kakte. Tabra tam na tawag ko $10 million kinyarak tayo na. Tam na tawag isumati mika tayo na.
That's not to say that the federal government's totality of their I'm still
Tabra tap ko na isumati piakat ka tap ko na kanuharaw tikrak ko na nalap kaging kaya. Kaya nakpak. Kaya nak unap tam na tabra apkotak pa sa magabliwi tabra tam tayo naklo tam na apakirta kaya ikayutigin niya tilakra nga mat ko nga hawak pang nun hawak tamat ko at apkotak pa sa magabliwi. Tabra tam na hibon na kapiyakay put apkotak pag isumatam na ato ni awap tiyo. Kahit na ito nagalan kinyaranik ay chok patiut. Kaya nakpag. Tabrap tao kili hiyo tuharak tiut takpawa ni kutsik to ni kapamat na tam na kakagad at taramik apkotak pag. Mackenzie Valley Pipeline. Mackenzie Valley. Tabrap tam na apkotak pag kuryakagad. Tabra lo tayo na tabra tamit ko nga hawak pang hagawak niya piyak tigot na isagutigop isagutig patay na ikayutigin niya tilakra nga ilitsaka niya kagputap tuman. Tabra yan nipta ka nalup kinyaktok. Tabra tamat ko na hibula ko na pinyarak put tugulahin na lup kay bilugo tayo na tabra tamatay na tabra lo tayo na alak na isagutik pa tayo blakon tayo na alang kirok pang mapag alak niyak tilakrangat kaya nakpag kaya nak tabra na apakirta ka ako tabra tam na ilitsaka niya kipiyaktok tabra na apakirta ka na taber tamatkot, taber tamatkot habaktot na in miktigun man na ki ang halugo kanok ang kanaktilakrangat ang kanaktilakrangat duwaptik ko nangalatakraput inikput. Taber na kuyanak. Taber kot taber tamatkot na una MLA gurok kaya piali tiga kanok tamatkot isumati humagi na kanok angalan ni ako tikrating tamatkot na inyuni isumagi vyugit kanok inyuni yo angalan ni ako tikrating isumagi huvlugit tamatkot isaguti ni akani Neaktakrangit na kaya piali tiga taber tam na kakto mi tap kuninga o kakuman na luli sarap kay human. Kaya nakpak.
Strategic Infrastructure, Energy, and Supply Chains. Member from the SOT 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for that reply. And I encourage others to familiarize themselves with, more specifically, the SOT2 Chapter 21.3.2, which really addresses a procurement process to secure that capital project. My next question to the Minister is, when will the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure submit the completed Ernest & Young business case for Phase 1 of the Mackenzie Valley Highway, Mussey?
Member from the SOT 2, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy, and Supply Chains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are right now completing the work plan that was signed with the Mackenzie First Nation, and one of the deliverables there is that we will be submitting the DAR addendum report in July, and alongside that will go in the business case. So that is July would be the deadline on that, but in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, that is not stopping anyone, any minister here from advancing and advocating for this project using already the very well-known principles of what will make this project such an important asset for the government of the Northwest Territories, for the people of the Northwest Territories. Thank you.
Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy, and Supply Chain. Final supplementary. Member from the SOT 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're making progress. We have targets and deadlines so we can achieve our accomplishment. My third question there, Mr. Speaker, is when will the Minister arrange for a joint Indigenous governments group to engage in a campaign engagement meetings with our federal counterparts on that specific project? Mussey.
From the SOT 2, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy, and Supply Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we certainly already in October had the opportunity to be in Ottawa alongside Indigenous governments, the SOT2 Secretariat, as well as the Pesquet First Nation, and the member for the SOT2 all conducted a co-hosted and presented a Mackenzie Valley Highway engagement attended by federal ministers, a number of businesses, foreign dignitaries. It was very well received. I would certainly look forward to doing something similar again. I can say, Mr. Speaker, there's an intention amongst the Indigenous governments who line the entire route, both Phase 1 and Phase 2, all the way up to the Gwich'in Tribal Council lands, to return to Ottawa. I would hope that that will be this spring. I don't have a date set, but I'll certainly want to get word out as soon as we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy, and Supply Chains. Oral questions. Oral questions. A member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So my questions are for the Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. As I said in my member statement, a study from 2003 found that almost half of our youth aged 16 to 25 could not read or write well enough to fully participate in society. 70% of Indigenous adults, 30% of non-Indigenous adults were not functionally literate. First question is, does the minister have any data or even anecdotal evidence to tell us whether our functional literacy rates amongst youth or adults have been getting better or been getting worse since 2003? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
North, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the survey that was done in 2003 that the member is referring to was done by Statistics Canada. And the most recent version of a Statistics Canada study that was done in 2022, 2023, and unfortunately the most recent study did not include the Northwest Territories. So we do not have updated trend analysis information that would allow us to compare to that study that was done in a similar fashion. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So does ECE or do the school boards even keep data on literacy levels amongst students at any grade in the school system, whether that's early learners or high school students? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the answer is yes, but it's certainly the type of information that's gathered varies by both age and purpose, and we don't have a single territory-wide number. It's worth noting that the territory is currently in the process of transitioning to the BC curriculum, and there will be consistent literacy and numeracy testing and graduation assessments that are done as part of that. So those will be done in grade 4, grade 7, grade 10, and grade 12. And because of the change in regulations that affords for more information sharing to the department, we will be in a much better position to track that data. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Final question for now in my information gathering mission here. I'm curious whether income assistance navigators have any tools to help identify or flag struggles that clients might be having with literacy, and then do they have any ability to link them with available supports for literacy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is done in kind of two different fashions. So the first is ensuring that client navigators are serving residents with the supports that they need in order to understand the paperwork that they're completing. We know that sometimes people need supports in other languages, sometimes they need added supports, sometimes those supports come as well from members in this House. And then the secondary kind of role with literacy supports is kind of those pathways to training or to supports for education that people might be looking for, supports for the knowledge of different programming that's happening in a community, for example, with the Literacy Council employability programming that's happening in some small communities in the territory right now as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions today are for the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. The process to mitigate radon is not complicated, but professionals who can install these systems are not extensively available throughout the territory. Mr. Speaker, I'm not asking the GNWT to find cash to set up private homes and businesses with mitigation solutions. Rather, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking if the Minister of MACA has any interest in creating a coordination function at his department so that residents could mass book specialists from other jurisdictions to realize cost savings of booking en masse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So radon testing in private homes is not within the mandate or authority of the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs, and I do appreciate the members' desire to coordinate. However, MACA does not oversee environmental health issues, and this is not in the area that MACA has any funding for or staff supports for. However, I will say, though, just because of the concern that we have, I'm interested in collaborating with the member to try to get resources available for residents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. I'm happy to collaborate. Mr. Speaker, Housing NWT is working to address radon concerns with contractors when high levels are found in public housing. Would the Minister consider discussing any kind of coordination approach, maybe he and I can chat about it further, with LGANT or the NWT Association of Communities, in addition to discussing successful options for securing contractors with Housing NWT? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's something we can discuss with the Housing NWT. However, I'm not going to commit to anything on behalf of Housing NWT. And radon testing and mitigation in private residential dwellings is not an area that MACA holds responsibility for. As such, MACA is not lead with coordinating work on radon testing initiatives. The federal government has a lot of information for action plans for municipalities, and also the Department of Health and Social Services has a great website on radon information in the Northwest Territories. And I've also asked the department to share resources and information with Elgant and NWTAC and get that information out to the members, and I believe this has already been done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Municipal and Community Affairs. Final supplementary. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the minister does not hold this function. I'm hoping to create a conversation amongst all communities as we look to address this issue. So that's what I'm speaking to today. I'm hoping he can review the jurisdictional scan I will table later today. And Mr. Speaker, will the minister talk to municipal leaders at the upcoming NWT Association of Communities Bear Pit about possible actions that we can support with the GNWT's resources? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I appreciate the interest on radon mitigation. And I will review the jurisdictional scan that is going to be tabled. However, radon mitigation in private homes, again, is not the responsibility of municipal and community affairs. And as a former municipal councillor and government official myself, I'm always happy to hear from municipal leaders on issues that are important to their communities. Any discussion on radon would focus on sharing information, helping direct communities to possible external resources rather than undertaking new MACA-led initiatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Mophie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions are for the Premier. What specific actions will our government take to ensure that misinformation or denialism about residential schools, such as the statement made in the BC legislature, does not take root here in the Northwest Territories, particularly in our schools and public institutions? Thank you.
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I understand that the bill that the member is referencing in the BC legislature was handily defeated. I believe it was 86 votes against and 3 votes for. So even there, I think there's a clear understanding that residential school denialism is not appropriate and it's not factual, obviously. And so here in the Northwest Territories, I say we are the leaders in Canada in reconciliation, working with Indigenous peoples. Specifically, when we speak to how we are going to educate the population, one of the things we do is we have Northern Studies courses in schools that all students are required to take, and those speak to residential school. As a government, we've developed the Living Well Together program where new GNWT employees, or all GNWT employees actually, have to take this, and this speaks about the history of the territory, including residential schools. And so we have a number of ways to try to educate large swaths of the public in this area. And of course, we have to remember that half of our population is Indigenous and very much familiar with the history of residential school as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Member from Mophie.
Tamat kat nalak to khap ke ta ai ma bangin mingin pekha pekliwit na ili hagayaktin mati tamat ko ili magit ka inwek tai nai tabra tai tap ko tabra tut khakau hluwit isumati perit ka inwek pain matamani nunapting ni tai na tai tabunga ili hagayak taktot tamat kuatin na natap tumang ingmiktigun tutkikaktaktuat inyuhimingnik. Taraptaktait na mani Northwest Territories miktaktavra itumati piarik putamna kanok. Taralutait na kanoluitap kuatin na piharangit kakpinit nakaneak tilakrangit tamat kuat ilihimagivut na isumagihugivut tamat kuat tait nakaneak tilakrangit. Taralutait na inuviaktuani na tabunga aula kota katimayak toktakaktuut ilitsakanya kota. Ako likla ko na pakiutakran. Taralutait na pingit kiga nakaktuat ilihimabigi. Tamat kualui na kawamaurat mani Northwest Territories ni na isumalugilakabatigit nagalunin naipektokabatigit na ingmiktigun na tutkikkaaniartuat inugutimingnik. Premier Kauklek tara ilakatai ilihimarugut kawamatukuat ilihamagivut. Taratait na ataramiktok tapkuat ukakalakivut kanokoniaktilakra put nagaluni tamatkuat nagalikaktuat ilihimagit kainuektuat inuit mani ing nunapting ni inyuniaktuat ing miktigun. Inawarani na ilihimagit kamani Northwest Territories ni inuektut. Tamat kualutait na ikayonaklugit igilungitigun annealutigin kanuhinyagilakatabra kanokolakatait na natkititsinyaaktugut tamat kuatin na igilawrakamatabra. Kuyanakpak. Trinidad Waladamin. Kuyanak. Tabraw na perutaka. Premier Gurokona. Kauklek. Tabraw kuatin na 2000. Yeah, okay. Tabraw na uvani hibunniaqvik pangmi 2024 mi tait na tabra tap kuatin na annealuktuanikin na munakrihuruat minihitauruat matkuat munakriruat tait na anneaqtuanik anneaqtuanahin taimait tamatkuat tutkikkaaniaqlugit. Tabrabta 2017 tatqaqiutini tamatkuadin natqikkaarneekangit tutqikkarpatigitili naagaluunin ni qimileriorpatigiti na inma tamatkuadin na tabralutai na anneartuatigun tabralutai na 10 tunukiuni tamatkuadin na qimileriortaqivut. Natabreika yorniaqaluit tabrika yorniartuaqivut uvaptikkun na inugiaktuat na uvapkun kihianik pingitsunga inugiaktuagu tabra inugiaktuut tabra tapkuatin na tamatkuatin na tangungitsuat inuit tabra tamatkuatin na ikayorniaqluit ikayorniapiaqait Tawalutai na tamatkotin na malakotaleaming tikut ila ni hanik paklugo at malakotaleakting pirakagat. Tawap tawak tamatkotin na kangyak kanya pe ako din kangyak kanya tu tamatkotin nga kano heraw ti kraming nip. Ilangitan nguralay chut. Hintay na tapita kakota ilitsarap ka na aribut. Kanok tay na awla matatay na maligta kakaluwit. Medical travel nagpilagay tay na awla aktod matkot ani aktod. O kalay choding tanikton na nalurot. Awla mata ikayo ko niya piyagay tay na. Kuya nakpak. Tunite wala day. Kuya nak. Kuya nak ko kakti. Tabrap tawak tay na. Tay na tawak tabrap. Tay na tabrap director yan ni ay mabit. I'm a Raragate, 1967 me. Tabrani tap to many who kill me. Tabralotay na ilihimaba tam na ilitsura niya piarlugo. Kamila kayo piarlugo ilitsura krakalok kanok ikayuti krangan. Kuya na ko kakti. Ilan ni matkotin na ilan ni malagulay kay inuit ina maling niaktot tap kuninga anniaktot na awlaktin matid malagulay kay na malakotaleak akating tawak tamat kunan ni malakotalealing ni malakotaleak ligo malakotaleak ting. Tabrap tawak tayo na ilyakenik taktam na uniok tayo liyakigat. Tabrap tayo na tam na tayo na maliktitakrak tap ko nga anniaktoanan. Tabrap tayo na ilan ni ingmiktigun. Hanak paklibutam na malakotaleak ilan ni malrup kakayay inuit maliktitangit na anniaktot awlakamata. Maliktitirat matkod ilan hanak palaklibutam na malakotaleak pilakayat. Tabrap tawak. Malakong nilyon ni tatkakauting ni tam na hanakigara kung nakalawakag putagla na lupkan niya piaktok. O kakti. Tabraw na isumari piakaya. Tam na ptok tam na tayo mani na waptik ko ni na taman na malakotaleak kakalawak tawad waptik ko tayo na tam na awal lablu. Aglan tam na nagaktukak po tam na tayo na alangong maong tam na malakotaleak po waptik ko. Kanakoting tayo tuguliligit parang tam na malakotaleak tayo na ikalawak tayo waptik ko tayo na angalatak to kakput. Kaya nakpak. Tabrap tayo na tangungit kala. Tangungit cholo, tangurolo, tapkuak alaging itsuk. ilokating tay na atirut. Tabatay na tam na ila ni maliktitak maliktita laikait anniakotin kaktuat haulakating ila ni maliktita laikait tamat ko tabat ilitap ko atipiaktuk habaw kami tigit tan ngungitsolo tan ngurolo tabatam na wapting nun ilakapiakangat maliako taliak.
Mr. Speaker, I want to follow up on some of the comments made by my colleague from Range Lake. Mr. Speaker, the GNWT has been criticized by being a cumbersome process in the transfer of land by the City of Yellowknife, but not just them, Indigenous governments, businesses, and industry, Mr. Speaker. So my questions are directed to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. What barriers is the Minister prepared to remove or is currently removing to ensure that the GNWT does not stand in the way of the $10 billion northern investment by the National Defence? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have the Department of Environment and Climate Change has been working very closely with the City of Yellowknife. We recently signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on bulk land transfers and moving land within the city. Currently have been meeting with the department on a very regular basis. We just had a meeting a week ago to talk about these potential requests that are going to come from the Department of National Defense, and we certainly recognize that this is a very important opportunity for the Northwest Territories, for the City of Yellowknife and the town of Inuvik, and we are prepared to work with both of those communities as well as with our Indigenous partners in both of the regions to advance this as quickly as we can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what MOU the minister is referring to. I believe the last one, the City of Yellowknife, either theoretically or metaphorically or whatever you want to call it, tore it up. In other words, they believed it wasn't working. Mr. Speaker, to the point, $10 billion doesn't come around every day, and it's certainly worth dedicating a dedicated team for this to help Yellowknife and the town of Inuvik, Mr. Speaker. So my question specifically is, does the minister recognize the opportunity of aligning as a department in a way so it can help facilitate and accelerate this extraordinary opportunity to ensure it isn't lost? Thank you.
From Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I certainly recognize the opportunity here. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the Northwest Territories as a whole. One of my priorities as minister has been to focus on land and the ability to transfer land to communities. That's through collaborative work with housing, with MACA, to ensure that we are putting forward our resources in a way that maximizes those opportunities. We've added additional resources and we've really gone on an effort to focus. Our primary focus was on housing, but it's very clear to me that working with the communities to advance the land requirements for these mega projects to ensure that we get the maximum benefit from the $10 billion is certainly a priority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Final supplementary, member from Yellowknife Centre.
Mr. Speaker, just a few short weeks ago, the city was telling us that the land process and transferring process continues to be bogged down. Mr. Speaker, I know a lot of numbers get confusing, but I'm going to say one lands employee using round numbers is $150,000. I would hate to think 0.000015 would stand $1 billion. That's a percentage, Mr. Speaker. So would the minister take action to ensure the ball isn't dropped, and can the minister explain what type of action he's going to do and accelerate to ensure this investment opportunity isn't lost in Inuvik and in Yellowknife and Northerners at large? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned in my earlier response, we currently have a memorandum of understanding with the City of Yellowknife that we signed in the fall. It's a new version of the agreement. We have been working very closely with the city. There's a number of parcels that have been identified as parcels of interest from the Department of National Defense, some of which are already in the possession of the city and have the ability to work with the Department of National Defense to move those requests forward. And certainly as a department, we have dedicated staff to this process. We realize the importance and significance of doing this, and we are totally committed to working with all of the partners involved, including our Indigenous partners in and around the City of Yellowknife, to ensure that we move this forward in a way that meets everybody's interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to take an opportunity to ask the Minister of Justice. A few weeks ago, the GNBT announced its position with regard to the federal government's assault-style firearms buyback program. And it was reported in the media as the GNBT stated it would not be involved in the federal buyback program, and that our territory's RCMP would be directed to not get involved. So that's left many residents, particularly those concerned about rising gun crime in our communities, confused as to whether the program applies in the territory at all. So my first question is, can the minister clarify whether the federal assault-style firearms buyback program will be going forward in the NWT? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the program is a federal initiative, and it will go forward in the Northwest Territories. It started, I believe the initial process started in the middle of January. It will be administered by the Department of Public Safety at the federal level. My understanding is that they are going to bring in some reserve RCMP officers from outside the territory to help administer that across the Northwest Territories. Our focus from the GNWT perspective is that we have staff challenges with the RCMP across the territory, and we need to have our folks focused on our current challenges within our borders, with the levels of gun crime and drug crime that are in our communities, and that's where we will be focusing on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Justice. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I know there was talk of sort of like a mail-in program, but can the minister clarify, will there be federal staff or contractors physically traveling throughout the territory to collect firearms directly from NWT residents? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this time I don't have that level of detail. Like I said, it's a program that is run by the federal government. It will be entirely administered by the federal government. And what their work plan looks like across the Northwest Territories, I could not say at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Justice. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So finally, can the minister clarify, is this an optional program, or are all owners of assault-style firearms on the list required to participate in this buyback program? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I understand it, letters were sent to all registered owners of assault-style weapons that fall under this program, and it is a mandatory requirement to be completed by the 31st of March 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Oral questions. Oral questions, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, another component of this new defense investment is, well, the Inuvik Airport, but of course the Yellowknife Airport as well. The Yellowknife Airport has its own revolving fund, and last year saw over 618,000 passengers. It's time that it got some real investment. The revolving fund isn't moving quick enough to invest in the needs, and it's certainly not moving quick enough to invest in the needs of $10 billion that is going to revitalize the economy, create jobs and growth. Will the Minister of Infrastructure commit to investing more funding into the Yellowknife Airport, make it a major project, and develop this so it's ready for that new military investment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the member is probably aware that the Yellowknife Airport is going through strategic planning sessions on the type of work that needs to be done at the Yellowknife Airport. Those are ongoing. They've completed public engagement and they're continuing with the engagement. So the Department of National Defence and the Department of Infrastructure, Government of Northwest Territories, have all been communicating on the types of assets and resources that are required for their projects at the airports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't hear a commitment there, but I will ask more details. So has the NORAD, Northern Basing Infrastructure Program's needs, have they been inserted into that strategic plan? Are we going to see a strategic plan that specifically is focused on those goals, focus on meeting those needs, and focus on bringing those dollars to the north? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The strategic planning and the work that's been going on has actually been slowed down in order to wait for D&D, and essentially what we heard was coming. And now that we know a little bit more, the work is ongoing, and there is plans with the strategic planning and everything else that's been going on with the Department of National Defence to build that all into the Yellowknife Airport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Final supplementary. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the pace is what worries me. Plans within plans within plans does not sound like we're getting anywhere very quickly. So will the minister, can the minister reassure me and Northerners that that plan and the necessary investments in that airport will be done by the time this money starts rolling out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley. Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Constantly.
Pag mapagtaba una Yellowknife mitchagbe o kakalang nalitiga kanok taba tamna na kami laki put kanok nertilakrangat tamaniki dahil nakata muna kabira put mitchagbe Yellowknife mi kaya nakpak okay 7.2 bracket 2 tara matgot apahurtat matgot tay martilakka 784 789 792 801 811 840 822 823 840 844 849 860 867 87 893 99 92 901 92 the right top got kaya na the right like min apahurt ako na Yellowknife Center min kaya na the right na apahurt ako apahurt lang na kayo na minihitarak matkot monakari roanik minihitarak Kanakulo ito matkoti na tam na maliktichi humota matkoti na anekdot maliktitangit tamat ko karat kubluwi tap herta lang narit kaya nat kubluwi tap kot kakte tabra haba hun ukot haba utakagibot Kayanak. Tabarani Yellowknife to me. Okay. Tabra ako uvlupak ukakatigil ka tam na munakriroak anneaktor la kadanik minihitangat. Tabra tamat ko tutkakavlugit nagalunin ilitsaka huklunga kanok tamat ko at maliktita ko patritin na anneaktor ni kaulaktichi kaming. Nagalunin tamat ko dit na tutkakaluidit na ilitsaka pan kaya na yaya. Tabra pang mapaktaw na tam na tutkakaluidit put pang ma kamila kayo takalo ilitsaka niya pe ako ta. Tabra ilat ni ptokta na maligtichila chugut. Tabra tam na Inuvialuktun na agalaktanik okaudikraptingnik okakairakraptingnik iqaqtugut tabra ni ilitsaqania piaqalugut tamatkot na maliktartot na anniartuanik anniaqavingnukkaarmata inauramingaglaan inaurani tabraptaq tabralutait na qanorlu tamatkotit na ilaatne tabralutait na ikayuiniartuat ikayuiniaqaffi na qanoq apaqluuttaqalaqaivattigittait na ilangittait na tamatkuninga agalaktuaquniittait malaqutalianik qanoqaniartilaakrangиннигит на иннаинниартилаакрангинник таmatkuat maliktartuat anniartuanik.
We do have the where we are.
Nanikilaarput pangmapak uqaallangiariga pangmapak tabra una nutaamik иллақиаққилигитсугут una nutaaq иллақиниарикпут тувунгаамалеруталианун таbraптаақуна утқутиллагит катаапкуалинна илитсоқапкаилаксат марпераани иттут табралутайтна табраптаартаматкаатинна иллақилангит табратайтна табра илихималут qanaq maliktitaksanikiitna tabrataytna maliktitaksat matkuatinna utoqqanaat naagaluunniinna ingmittigun havapiaaleaqquat maliktitaqaqquvlugit ili taamna pigivut tabraunna iliranik taaptumiga piqaukkaluartunga qanoqtabra tamatkuat apaqluuttangit kiutquvlugit qanoqinmagaitat qanoqinniartilaakkanga taaptuma Yellowknife tabrauna munaqriri minihitauruaqu matkuninga munaqaraurani anniartualaqqirini tabraluutaitna avanmun uqaqatigiartugut tamatkuat иллақиниартуат табраилитсеқапкараниариауна аппахрируартаматкунинга Range Lake me.
Programs are crucial components of the justice system that allow different ways of people who run afoul of the law to repay their debts to society in a way that doesn't involve jail time or setting them up for failure. In recent travels on the Trespass Act, I became aware that there are some
Minister of Justice, ho kanoli ikayonek but community justice but hisik down tulut or agilonek tagut maningat. Minister of Justice, Koyanani. Ogla paka pine option atna paka ikayong nirak niyak but inuit inunyarwing me. Ogla paka government but inunyarwing me ikayok tang nirak atiyut ogla pak. Koyanani. Atna baka Community Justice Committee o kauti lang Community Justice Committee inyo narbing mi. Kaya na ini. Naka inyo narbing ko ka iliptin nun ko ka Justice mi ko ka iliptin ni kayok takakto tapani. Ogla pagka ikayok takaktot inyo narbing mi. Kaya na ini. Ogla pa Justice mi yok. At na pagka ikayok nirar put inyo society mi. Ogla pagka kangakaktoanga ikayok nirar lut. Computer miglo online mi Northwest Territories mi ikayok takaktugut mani computer mi ataw mi atuk toklo ugla baka akilang nangin kikput kaya naini kaya kubehok tunga at na baka ayaw na ikput habak takakput mani. Kaya na ini, kaya na Justice Tegok. Mani Fort Liard Miyok at nabak police mata akakta police mata branito ko niraktot kanakli uglapak Fort Liard mi kanakli. At napaka naipekto hubi yung police at Fort Liard mi. Kaya na ini.
Question.
Tabrona kaya gilitiga apakutanga tamna apakutanga una. Kami lagi waktu magaita tamat kot habaw tangit tabrani. Tabar tayo na kami lagi magibot. Tayo na luwi na kabamaurad mani na o kakatigiligid pila kayo butap tumuna. Yalo na iftan kami. Kaya na ko kakti. Tabar kot kaya tamat kot kami lagi mabatigit. Yalo na iftan kami. Ukot una waktu cinyak tuak minihitak. Tabar na tabar tamat ko na na kami lang tayo tamat ko habak to tabar ni. Yala na isan kami. Kakte. Tabar tamat ko na kami lang ako figit. Ilitsarap kalawit mat ko na habangit kalawak tiluit tabrani na ilitsarap kalawit mat ko inuit kanok hera magaita kanok hera uti pinik ilihimayo kalawat. Kaya nakpak. Kaya nakpo kakti. Tabra na minihita rak tutkekahima rak inyong niki na tabra ni tam na minihita ulit tabra ni Tabertamat ko rin na kutsik to ni kabamat. Nagaluni uwagut kabamawragot. Tabrak kihulaka kanawan kihulakan kanuhakautingan niksuna ilihimap kakawibot. Tabertam na tayo makakanak kilalichok.
Yellowknife North.
Mr. Speaker, October 23rd, Child and Youth Counseling Service, Oglopaka Great Slave New York, October 29. Oglopak Inuvialuktun Welfare at Napakoka Inu Nerikput, November 19. Oglopak October 21st. Healthcare money returning me habag connected. Northwest Territories medical student rejection for residentials. Uglupaka Habaktakput. No at Napaka senior envoy. Petitions. Mr. Speaker, at Nabaka Oakland Oral Cast 2822, Praxis 1. Mania Healthcare Professional me at Nabaka Natakawata Kayak Senior Envoy. Mr. Premier. Carpet Mason first 5 Senior Envoy Great Slave Migok Okak Doctor Table Radon testing and Canada and Glupaka Fertility Canada Migok at Napak.
Compensation and benefits report presented by the Independent Commission to review members' compensation and benefits dated November 2025. I hear table the summary of the recommendation.
And the TV November 25, Migoka table Miga Mani Bakpa Titik Put. Yellowknife Center me. Koyanaini. Member Stain me Ak Okaktoka. Uglapaka Apakrok but security guard me Havaktrot Mani Havagurot Mani. April 1991, 35 years to Nukulik. Table documents. Notice of motions. Motions.
Other matters. Report of committee as a whole.
29, Mr. Speaker. Order Thursday, February 5th, 2026, 1:30 p.m. Prayer statements. There's a gallery. Roger, that's it. The clerk to table the documents, pull the back bills.
Mr. Clerk, this House stands adjourned until till Thursday, February 5th, 2026, at 1:30 p.m.